Hey friends, it's Worm here again today, and I wanted to talk about the addition of additional subclass synergizing perks into Destiny 2 and just kind of brainstorm some, sorry, tongue twister there. Um but of course we got initially with the Witch Queen and Void 3.0, we got Repulsor Brace. And Repulsor Brace basically states when you kill a Void debuffed enemy, so an enemy that's volatile or weakened or suppressed, you will get a Void Overshield when you kill them with that weapon, of course. That was the first that we got. Then we got Incandescent. Incandescent, of course, came with the season after that, I believe Season of Haunted, with Solar 3.0. And it basically states when you get a kill, it causes an explosion that will scorch enemies in the area around it. The main difference between this and something like Firefly or Dragonfly, of course, is that it doesn't deal explosion damage. It just adds scorch stacks to enemies around it. Then the next season we got Volt Shot, of course, and Volt Shot is when you get a kill after reloading, your next shot will jolt a target. It's a fantastic perk. Well, then we come full circle around to this current season, and we got destabilizing rounds. So when we look at weapons, we see that actually I guess Stasis was the first one to get a weapon synergizing perk. But we had Headstone and Chill Clip. On Stasis weapons, we have destabilizing rounds and Repulsor Brace for Void. And then for Strand, of course, we have Hatchling. So I figured, hey, let's just come up with random ideas for perks that could potentially, that would be cool to have on weapons, on your Solar, Arc, Void, Stasis, whatever kinds of weapons. So starting off with Solar, because I think Solar would logically be the next one in line to get another subclass synergizing perk. And it's really difficult to top Incandescent. Okay, now, one of the things I noticed with Repulsor Brace versus, destabilizing rounds is like the debuff perk, and then for the Guardian, of course, or I should say for the enemy, maybe. I don't know what I'm trying to talk about here, but it's a perk that is more like offensive. And then Repulsor Brace is more of a defensive perk, right? So I figured with Solar 3.0 and with the addition of Scorch, Ignitions, Cure, Restoration, stuff like that, what could be a perk that could potentially fit in there as more of a defensive? Because I feel like Incandescent is more of an offensive perk, right? But I wanted to try to think of a weapon that's, more on the defensive side. So I was thinking something along the lines of maybe some type of minor, I do mean minor, restoration on getting kills. Obviously the thing with, these perks is they can't be too powerful. They can't be something that using a weapon with, this perk on it is almost not even an option because it's so good. And I feel like this is kind of the way that Volt Shot was. If you're gonna use an arc weapon, if you need an arc weapon for whatever reason, you might as well use something with Volt Shot. You might as well use an IQLOS with Volt Shot, or something of that nature, because Volt Shot is so very good. But again, it does require reload. It's not like you just instantly, hitting rapid hits or something like that gives you the ability to jolt targets. So I figured for Solar 3.0, we could have some along the lines of, precision kills grant restoration. And then it's a very, very short duration for restoration. I'm talking 1 second, okay? Or I guess technically you could say 2 seconds. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I guess you could technically 2 seconds. It starts at 1, counts down to 0, or something along those lines. But I think that would be a really solid option, because it wouldn't be too powerful. If you're not using a Solar subclass, if you're using, say, a Void subclass, and you get that restoration, it heals you for a little bit, for 2 seconds, and it's just times 1 restoration. So it gives you, I can't remember what the exact number is, but it gives you 30 HP or something like that. For 2 seconds, we give you 30 HP. Not enough to give you full heal, unless maybe you had high resilience, but even then I don't think that, I don't think it would be that great. And of course, in modes that are like high level content, like grandmasters, master raids and stuff like that, it wouldn't be too busted, because of course trying to get a bunch of kills before that 2-second timer runs out is very difficult, especially this season with Cabal themed grandmasters and whatnot. Like, it takes a minute to kill some of these enemies. They're beefy, they're tanky, and so I think 2 seconds of restoration on like a precision kill would be a great option. And of course, this would typically be in the fourth column. You have the option to pick, oh, do I want this restoration perk, or do I want incandescent? Do I want to be more offensive, or do I want to be more defensive? And of course, it would synergize with Solar 3.0, because let's say you get it on something like the new auto rifle is solar, you get this restoration perk. Well, then you start getting kills. Well, since it's solar, you can pair it with one of the fragments that getting solar kills will extend the duration of your restoration. Well, then next thing you know, you can just proc restoration basically for free. If you cut down a group of like 5 thralls, your timer instantly goes up to 10 seconds. I think that would be a pretty neat perk. I was playing around with the idea of something that can cure players as well, but really the only thing I could like think about that would be decent but not too powerful is like rapid kills grants cure, but at the same time that's basically just unrelenting. Okay, and unrelenting is already in the game. So I'm still kind of thinking and working about some way to do a cure base build, but I think the restoration one would be a great addition to solar. I also think that maybe they could add some sort of like almost team oriented style of perk, because obviously solar is a subclass. It's built around buffing and healing, and you can buff and heal your teammates as well. And I know that other subclasses can do it, but I feel like solar is kind of the main one. When I get on my solar warlock, I like to put on Boots of the Assembler, and Lumina, and just go to town healing and buffing everybody. And maybe some sort of perk that falls in line with helping your allies would be nice, because obviously Lumina is the only real support weapon that we have currently in the game. So I think that adding some type of legendary perk that could play as a support weapon would work great for solar, or for a solar based weapon, as a solar synergistic perk. But with that being said, I wanted to move on to Arc. Arc would be the next one. And of course, Arc doesn't have a whole lot of verbs tied to it. It has Jolt, of course, which that's what Voltshot does. It has Blind. It has Amplified. And I think that's it. I think it's just Blind, Jolt, and Amplified. And I was thinking, okay, like, what is something that could, synergize as more of a defensive style perk for Void 3.0. And it was very difficult to come up with one, because on one hand it's like, okay, like rapid kills grants amplified. Well, at the same time, like, that's part of the base kits on Arc, right? Rapid arc kills will grant amplified, so it didn't make sense to do that one. And of course there's nothing else that is really like to buff your character. So I figured the only thing we could do is, of course, have some sort of perk that is tied to blind. However, blinding is incredibly powerful. Not only that though, but blinding also is present on a grenade launcher, special grenade launchers, which is now called disorienting, but it does the same thing as blinding. And so it's really difficult to come up with one for this, but I thought of one that might be, kind of unique, kind of interesting, for the Arc 3.0 kit, and that is precision kills with X weapon, like rapid precision kills will grant like stacks to your weapon, right? Like, think about something like the Vex Mythoclast with its catalyst. Okay, as you get kills, it gives you little squares, little stacks of whatever that perk is called, temporal calculator or whatever. Anyways, it doesn't matter the name of the perk, it gives you stacks. Maybe on an arc weapon it's something along the lines of like, as you get kills, with your primary weapon, you get stacks, and once you have once you have your X number of stacks, the next precision kill that you get will cause a really big blinding explosion that blinds enemies for a pretty decent amount of time. I think that this would be a really neat perk. It would be very niche, but that's kind of the way that all of these, subclass 3.0 perks are, with the exception of maybe Volt Shot, because Volt Shot is insane on any subclass. But I think that that would be a pretty neat one. You could also, have something along the lines of, rapid kills make you amplified, which that would be cool. Because if you're playing on like a solar subclass, you can run around while amplified, but at the same time, it's it's difficult to say because I don't know. I don't know if it would fit like the whole vibe, that you get that bluish kind of effect on you. And if you're doing solar, it could be confusing, especially in something like the Crucible. But that was my thoughts for Arc. Maybe they'll add some more verbs or for some more keywords for Arc. That would be really cool too. But yeah, maybe I'm forgetting one. I don't know. Let's move on to what's next. Strand. So Strand is the next one. Strand, of course, has Hatchling. In my opinion, and I might get hate for saying this, in my opinion, though, Hatchling is one of the worst like subclass synergizing perks that we have. Because it really only synergizes well with the Warlock. Like as a Titan, if I have a Hatchling weapon and I make a Hatchling, like that Hatchling's gonna do like no damage to the enemies that are nearby. Like it's less damage than something like Volt Shot, and it doesn't proc over and over and over again like Volt Shot. It doesn't have great ad clear like Incandescent or something like that. So, I think Hatchling is kind of weak. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at the keywords that come with Strand. So of course, for the debuffs, we have Sever, we have Unraveled, and we have Suspended. I'm going to come right out of the gate and say I don't think a Suspended style perk would be a very good idea, because Suspend is incredibly strong, and in order to do that, you would have to make it, I mean, you could do something like Headstone, right? You get a precision kill and it makes a suspending blast around a target, but that area would have to be tiny, right? Because, you make a Stasis crystal near enemies, unless they are like almost touching the crystal, they don't get frozen. They'll get slowed, but they don't get frozen. And the area is not very big. If you had something like, an area of effect that is comparable to, like the artifact perk that when you destroy a Tangle, it makes that, I think it would be busted. So we couldn't do something like that. But I think maybe like you can do a precision kill, creates a suspending blast near the targets. That could potentially be a good option. And I know it's kind of basic. It's like, oh, like a precision kill, like, hey, look, there's not many ways we can proc perks without making them exotics, But there's also Sever and there's Unraveled. Now, Unraveled, I don't feel like a perk for Unraveled would work very well with it. Okay, you could maybe say, getting a kill will, create will create an unraveling blast around the target. That could be cool. That could be a cool one. You could also say getting a kill, or maybe landing rapid precision hits will sever a target. That would also be, kind of all right in my opinion. It's not too good, but it's not, a weak perk like something like Hatchling. And I'm sorry if you like Hatchling, or if you're a Warlock, Hatchling is good on Warlock because it can, do the little bird perchies and stuff like that. But outside of playing on the Warlock, Hatchling is kind of weak. Now there's also a buff to the character, and that's Woven Mail. Now Woven Mail is one that I really do hesitate to make a perk out of it, and the reason why is because Woven Mail is very, very strong. I cannot remember. I want to say it's like 50, it's around 50% damage resist in PvE. So if you had a perk, where, getting rapid kills with, whatever Strand weapon grants Woven Mail, that would probably be busted. Like that would be really, really strong, and you'd see every Titan and his mom running it. I'm just saying. But I think you'd also see a bunch of players running it in general. So I don't think that Woven Mail or a perk that grants Woven Mail would be appropriate, I guess is the word. I think that you would probably want to just lean into something like Severed or Unraveled for, the Strand situation. And yeah, so that's it for those three. I'm going to go ahead and circle back now to Stasis, because I feel like Stasis has gotten left in the dust, and I love Stasis. I love Stasis Titans. There is a build you can do that is absolutely insane, where you are basically invincible. At any rate, for Stasis, of course, we have Headstone, which spawns a Stasis Crystal when you get a precision kill. And we have Chill Clip for special weapons, where getting a kill with the top half of them, or not getting a kill, getting hits with the top half of the magazine will slow targets around you, and you could eventually freeze them. So it was kind of difficult because Stasis only has really one. I mean, it doesn't even have one buff. Like its debuffs are frozen and slowed, and that's it. And I feel like it's very lackluster, sorry, in comparison to our other subclasses. You know, Void has Invis, Devour, Overshield. You know, Arc has Jolt, Amplified, Blinded. Solar has Restoration, Cure, Radiant, Ignition, Ignite, stuff like that. But Stasis literally has Frozen and Slowed. So I think that we need to add some type of additional, you know, like a buff to the class. Now, I know somebody might bring up, what is it? Whisper of, I can't remember which one it is, but the one that basically grants you an overshield when you pick up shards. That is technically a buff, and the overshield is strong, but again, like it's not part of the stasis. It's not like the same. It's not the same as Void Overshield. You know, Void Overshield, you know, on Titan, for example, if you have an overshield and Bastion, your grenade cools down much faster. You know, that's just an example. And with that overshield one that you get for stasis, doesn't do the same thing. So I think that some type of buff to the player could come with stasis. Now, what that buff is, I'll probably talk about it in another video at some point, talking about stasis, because I do feel like stasis is not in the best shape right now, and it's kind of been forgotten about, especially since Strand dropped. But just some sort of, you know, buff that can be inherently tied into the stasis subclass, like a buff where, you know, you don't really get that unless you are using something that is of the stasis kit, you know, something stasis itself. If you're using a stasis weapon, something like that. You know, again, I don't want to speculate too much and get kind of out of my line because I'm not a developer, but we need to see more perks for stasis, more perks for solar, arc, Strand, and stasis. Okay, and I know that, you know, we need to see more perks from all, because I would love to see synergizing perks across the board. You know, imagine you get in here, you get a new arc weapon, for example, and it has a choice of, like, there's 3 different subclass synergizing perks. It's like, oh, there's one that can make me amplify, there's one that can make me, you know, blind enemies, there's one that can jolt enemies. Like which one do I want to choose? Which one do I want to build into? And I think that's the fun element of Destiny is the build crafting. And the more weapons that they add in, or I'm sorry, the more weapon perks that they add in, the more interesting it becomes to, you know, okay, like, I'm going to use this stasis weapon because it has this cool perk on it, you know, or I'm going to use this Strand weapon because it can, you know, it can sever enemies and make them do less damage, or, you know, just something like that. But anyways, I've rambled on for like almost, well, like 20 minutes now. I had to restart this video here. Sorry if you're watching it for a second time. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I would love to see more subclass specific perks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I know that I'm not the only one that has thought of these ideas. So if you've thought of something cool, tell me in the comments. Tell me your ideas for, like, what would be a really, really cool, you know, subclass specific perk that's totally new, you know, that's not similar to the other ones, you know, that's not like Volt Shot, that's not like Chill Clip or something along those lines. Like, I want to hear your thoughts, because some of y'all, most of y'all, are really smart and really creative with your perks. But if you like the video, please drop a like. It does help the channel out. I appreciate the 150 subs that we hit last night. I made a little video saying thank y'all earlier. But yeah, subscribe for more daily Destiny content, and until then, I will see y'all in the next one, guys. Bye for now.